Hello, my HS 103 students. This is your professor, Donald Earl Collins. It is Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023. And Semester's over except for finals. And we don't have a final in this class. So, semester ended when we had our last classes last Tuesday on April the 25th, as far as this class is concerned, when a grand total of three students between two classes did in-person presentations on that day. No one expressed an interest in doing a presentation beyond that before that day, and no one expressed an interest in doing it on the 27th either. So we canceled those classes ended, early, and we didn't have class on Thursday, April the 27th. So, and semester in terms of course meetings ended at the end of the day on Monday, May the 1st. So everything's done. I've turned in all the grades that I have for um, your final projects are in. Any considerations of upping a grade or lowering a grade regarding projects and all the other considerations have been done, and we are moving on. So, you know, for this semester, which is great, better than last semester with Moodle's accuracy based on what I wanted it to calculate and what I can physically calculate on my own as a former math major lined up perfectly. There is no difference. So your overall score is there. I still have to make the decision as to what your actual grade is. I know what the syllabus says. I have some discretion in borderline cases. I can up a grade, I can lower. I don't not going to lower a grade. I can up a grade. And part of my consideration, part of that's calculus, this is where the indirectness of this is around attendance. And two-thirds of you, on average, about two-thirds of you have not been regularly attending class since about week 6 or 7, even before spring break. Some of you I have not seen at all since spring break. Not at all. I haven't seen you in virtual. Some of you haven't even attended virtual. Some of you have attended virtual. Of course, none of you show your faces, right? I've tried everything to try to get your interest in this course peaked. I know it's a required course for those of you who are trying to graduate, but you know, to try to pique your interest, it's only U.S. history after all. It's only about the nation state in which you currently live and the state of affairs of this state going back to the end of the American Civil War up to right now, and trying to show you all the parallels between the past and the present and the possible future and everything else. That's what I spent the second half of the course mostly dealing with, and yet so few of you attend it. And now, don't get me wrong, I know a lot of you didn't attend for legitimate reasons. Probably about half of you, between the notices I've gotten from the university about whatever has been going on with you, and your personal notes contacting me, letting me know why you haven't been in attendance, and so on and so forth. If we had had an honest conversation about it, it would have been nice to have an honest conversation about why people have been attending the class, whether it's because of me, whether it's because of Voldemort, whether it's because of depression, whether it's because of what's the point, a nihilism and your narcissism or whatever else other isms you might have going on with you. That would have been nice, but none of that happened because most people decided to just bag it, and that actually showed in some of the projects. I would say that about a third, maybe 40% of the projects were just sort of mailed in. Just sort of like you mailed it in, you decided to bag it and just sort of just throw words on the piece of paper, or basically a really horrific cacophony of pictures and without words, or words without pictures for doing a presentation, that kind of thing. Or just when you did your video, sort of like, oh, this is my artifact, no, this is this, and all that's that in the end, and you didn't really give the analysis in your actual presentation in a couple of cases. It was, the level of actual effort to try to address historical accuracy, first of all, historical context, historical significance of both the artifact and the topic with which you took a deeper dive in regarding that artifact, and to provide historical significance, it was missing in so many of the projects. I would say it was missing partially, or in some cases almost completely missing. And about a third of the projects altogether, and about 40% of the projects, there was significant issues around it. So lots of folks ended up with basically C's and B's as a result of that. Really, if I wanted to, some of y'all should have even the letter grade below that, given the amount of time you had. Wasn't like this was a last minute thing. You had to do a proposal week 9 after we got back from spring break and outline it in detail. You were going to do this project over a course of basically 4.5 weeks. And a lot of you just decided, well, it's Friday, it's April 21st. I guess I should put this project together. I mean, that's basically what you did. And still expected me to say, okay, you did a good job. It's like, you'd think literally by just putting words on a piece of paper, or you flash a smile, or that you're nice to me and saying thank you for being in the, when you walk out of the class, when you are in class, that somehow that equals an A. No, my job is not to give you an A. My job is to give you a grade. Now, if that grade, based on the criteria I laid out, is an A, then you got an A, and some of you got A's on both the project, and some of you have an A in the course, without me even having to do any sort of machinations around it. You already have an A because you have a 93 average or whatever, right? Good for you, and I'm glad. Don't get me wrong. There are quite a few good projects out of both sections of U.S., right? Both sections. So probably 45% of you did really, really well. I mean, like A minus, almost A plus level work. But majority of you, well, those of you who scored probably less than an 88, or an 87, there wasn't as much there as there should have been. Certainly not enough analysis, certainly not enough context, and other things. And then you throw in the fact that a lot of people weren't in class. It's not surprising that this would happen, right? Because class is all about second half of the class, especially after you get past the 1960s and 70s, is literally about the legacy of the U.S., the legacy of a lot of the things that you're supposed to be talking about, those kinds of things. And a lot of you just didn't care or didn't even get there. Or if you made it about legacy, something around how you personally felt or your personal opinion. One of you wrote that you were writing a personal opinion essay for an artifact project that is about historical analysis. And no, that's not how you're supposed to do things. So I'm just going to say this, right? I haven't determined your final grades yet. That will happen today or tomorrow. No later than tomorrow, I will submit your final grades. But I will say this. For those of you who have been regularly attending, if you're borderline, you will get the bump, right? You'll get a bump if you're right on the border to the next grade. If you have not regularly been attending, you probably will not, all right? So your grade will basically stay the same, right? My first year of college at the University of Pittsburgh I got a C, the only C I've ever gotten in all the years of taking history classes going back to middle school. I got an East Asian history. I missed basically 2.5, 3 weeks of class where I only went to one class. We met twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays from 2 to 3:15 or 3:20 or something like that. And I missed one class. I made one class out of like 7 in that stretch. And even though I had a stack of evidence when I went to complain to my professor the following semester, that January of 1988, about those grades, right? I know it's so long ago, right? 35 years ago. Because I had a B plus on my final, I had an A minus on my midterm. On papers, my grades were basically between a C plus and a B minus. So overall, you taking my papers and exams into account, my average was about a B minus, borderline B. But I had a C. And she said I was lucky to even get a C because I missed so many classes. Did I tell her that I was homesick? No. Did I tell her that my heart was slightly broken from a crush that I had in high school? Sure. I could have told her those things, I guess, in real time because I'm, just 18 years old, right? I'd only turned 18 during the holiday break, so I'm still really young, right? But she's letting me know that because the class was less than 20 students, and quite frankly, because I was the only black kid in the class, it was noticeable that and because I actually spoke sometimes in class, unlike most of you, it was noticeable my absence. And because it was noticeable, she decided that since I didn't talk to her about why I was missing class, that, all right, you don't care about class. Why am I going to give you this grade when you haven't been in class? No, you don't deserve this B minus or B, C. That's what she gave me. And I even point out the fact that in the syllabus doesn't say anything about attendance in the syllabus. She's like, this is a seminar, right? You can't just not you can't just not come to class, right? You all have acted. Many of you all have acted like the classroom that we're in has 200 students in it or 150 students in it. There, even in a larger class, the maximum number of people in the class, I believe, was 29 when the semester started, dropped to 26 by the end of the semester. So even if I don't know your name, I've seen your face enough times, certainly the first few weeks of the semester, to know that when you miss class, that you're missing class, right? And I have learned all of your names. I have, because, time. It's been a semester. I've had enough time to learn them. So I am going to notice that when I look at your grades and try to figure out what I should do about should I bump your grade up or leave it as is. And then the final analysis, many of you will not get bumps as a result. So indirectly, your attendance is affecting you. But it's more than that. It's more than just your attendance. It is things like being gaslit because you want to basically ask me 50 questions in class because you missed the last three classes and all of a sudden you want to know everything. Or it's, after the fact, I'm supposed to take into account whatever's going on in your life personally so that I can give you a better grade, even though the work that you're doing is what I'm grading you on. Context is king, but context can only be king if I know about it in real time, right? Meaning that if you're having all these issues, maybe we should have talked about what your assignment, how you're going to go about doing your assignment during office hours, instead of expecting me to sit here with the stuff that you sent me and say, hey, give this a good grade because I deserve it, because I'm a great person, because I did some hard work. Hard work means nothing if you don't work smart too, if you don't actually follow the instructions that the professors laid out for you. Just because you said you were going to work on X topic and you worked on X topic does not make me obligated to give you an A or a high B even, right? It does not. If you do not cover things like historical significance, make relevant the examples that you use to the topic that you're talking about. I mean, relevant and direct, right? That's as evidence. And you can't just say anything and then say that this is that one thing is related to other when it's clearly not, and then I'm supposed to go, yeah, I should give that an A. No, that's not how this works. I lay out clear criteria for you, and in the syllabus, in the actual notes for the class around doing the freestyle artifact, project, whether as a group or as an individual. I laid out timelines for you and everything else, and people just blew past them. People just said none of that matters. This is where you need to grow up. This is where taking responsibility isn't just saying the words, I take responsibility. It's taking responsibility for the consequences of not following through with what you were supposed to do, the consequences of your lack of action or inaction, as well as the consequences of actual action. And sometimes that means that I'm not going to be flexible and go, hey, I should give you a better grade, or hey, that those sorts of things. So no, that's not how that works. And while we're adults, I'm still your professor, right? I'm still the person that's determining your grade for a class. Someone that potentially could be a mentor to you academically and maybe even professionally if you decided to go into this field, or at the very least, someone who can write a letter of recommendation for you for graduate school if you wanted one, right? I'm not just some guy. You can act like I'm some high school teacher all you want, but I'm not just some guy. Or a customer service representative for that matter. And you're not just some client that deserves something because you plop some money down. Okay? That's unless you're giving me a check directly, which you're not. I'm not obligated to do anything other than grade you and determine on the basis of your work what your grade is. So for those of you who don't like that, who don't accept that, who don't like your grade, tough cookies. And that's the best thing I can say because there are cuss words that could come flowing out of my mouth otherwise. All right? So tough. Too bad. You should have been doing the work, not doing your work at the last minute, not sending in stuff that was half done or half baked or ideas that you didn't even think through. Too bad. Sorry. Doesn't work. It's not personal, but some of you have made it personal. Some of you tried to gaslight me over this stuff in the last 24 hours without pausing to actually read what I was saying. So tough. But for those of you, on the other hand, who did do their work, who did do the due diligence, even when they didn't come to class, thank you. Thank you so much for doing the work that you were able to do. Thank you for doing it well. Thank you for taking into consideration the lessons from the class and doing your work, right? And for those sort of in between, I know you didn't get anything out of the class. You got the grade that you wanted, or you got close to the grade that you wanted, so you're okay. And that's disappointing. It's even disgusting on some level, in that sense. But let me say this. I've given you this sort of mixed bag of sort of things that I feel about what's going on in both sections of these courses. Bottom line is, you're out. Course is over. I'm done, except for submitting your grades in the next 24 hours or so. So, you know, I'll probably, I'll try to forget about y'all in the next coming weeks and forget that I actually teach for a living in the coming weeks over the summer. You enjoy your summer. For those of you who are coming back to school next year, for whatever reason, stay healthy and sane. And I wish you all well. I don't wish any of you ill will. All right, and I wish you, staying as healthy as possible and sane as possible. For those of you who are graduating, congratulations. Yay. Congratulations. Move on with your life. Hopefully, for those of you, you won't never have to take a U.S. history course with someone like me ever again. You get to do things the way you want to and stick your head in the sand. But if you ever come across something and go, hey, Professor Collins was right about what's happening in our country, do not hesitate to email me about that and let me know, because it's always nice to hear from students who go, this actually proved useful down the line. And that always makes me smile. So take care, everybody.